Y. You started in 1959 when it was not fashionable to do dry white wines in the Sauternes area like these days. How comes?
And Y is not a new brand because Y started in 1959. But at this moment, and you picked Y, and the picking, the harvest, is just after the harvest of Château d'Yquem. Donc you have the soul of the grapes with botrytis and no botrytis. But I see at this moment, because I test the old vintage of Y, at this moment
Right.
you have a lot of similarity with Sauternes wine with less sugar.
All right.
Since 20 years, since 15 and 20 years, and my team and me have changed the cooking of Château Y, because now I picked Y before it came. And I picked in a very nice plot, very quality plots around the chateau. I picked a large proportion of Sauvignon, very ripe Sauvignon. And it's very interesting, I picked and the Sémillon, he has just a little attack of botrytis. And the color of the skin change is just a little violet color. But you have the little attack. You have not the fungus. I picked up the different part of the just around the chateau. It's like a crop thinning and a green harvest. After the vinification is a normal vinification in barrels, and the result. And the first nose of this wine is a typical nose of the Sauternes nose, like you have a lot of white peach and the dry apricot. And after the structure of the white wine, very characteristic of the structure of the white wine, Y have 7 grams of sugar residual. It's difficult to compare this wine with a traditional white wine. You have a lot of similarity with Alsace wine. Right. When I test the evolution of Y in the time, you have the same evolution like a Riesling evolution. But it's nice. Y is unique. It's very confidential because I produce 10, 12,000 bottles, all depend on the
vintage. Very limited.
It's very limited, but it's unique. I love Y to start with the seafood, and it's a fantastic aging wine also. It's very interesting to observe the evolution of this wine in the time.
So these days, the youngest vintage is Château d'Yquem drinks so beautifully, and in the past people were waiting a long time to drink Château d'Yquem, but I think actually with some of the food these days, like 13, 14, 15, they're so approachable straight away. Why?
It's a fantastic aging wine.
Yes.
It's very elegant to travel in a time with Château d'Yquem. I'm very lucky because I test the vintage of the 19th century at the different place, because I have the wine collector come in Château d'Yquem with a whole bottle of wine. And I remember a very good friend say, Pierre, is possible to drink my whole bottle of 1861 with your team in Château d'Yquem? She said, yes, no problem, I cook for you. You have the wine collector are very excited to see the evolution of the color of Château d'Yquem, the golden gold color, and the amber color, and the mahogany color, and the dark color. I think it's amazing wine. But also, it's possible to drink a new vintage like your experience with 11, 2014 and 15 and 16, because it's a very, very, very fresh vintage. It's a fresh vintage because you have the nice summer with hot summer and a dry September with a cool night to maintain the freshness of the fruit. And also, it's not a new fashion, but to start, it came with like an aperitif. It came, you serve the new vintage like 2015 is the
yes.
outstanding vintage. Cool temperature between 7 and 8 just for the aperitif is an amazing position for this one. But after, yes, it's very easy to associate Yquem with a poulet frite, with pommes fries. For the weekend, the people who live in Sauternes have the tradition to put the pomme fry with the poulet. I organize a tagine, a Morocco dish, because you mixed and the fruit and the sugar and sweet.
Spiciness.
I think spiciness is great, je dirais, match with Yquem. And sweet bread. Sweet bread with the spinach with cream is outstanding position for Yquem. And Comté cheese, Stilton, blue cheese. Yes, okay. You have always the good appointment with the Château d'Yquem, yes, and the fruit like a mango, pineapple, etc., etc. Just in the middle of the night, alone with a cigar, is also the best position. But I love to taste the young vintage of Château d'Yquem. And 2018. Bon. It's not an easy vintage for Sauternes, but because you have the very big suspense. You have a spring with a lot of water, but for the flowering is great because you have the heterogeneity in flowering. Is very interesting for the Sauternes wine because you have the large picking. For the red wine, I prefer the homogeneous flowering. You have the very dry and very hot season during September. I started to pick a few grapes, not with mixed botrytis and passerillage, very fresh juice, and I stopped the picking, and have just a little window of picking in the middle of October of 5 days. I have the marvelous pourriture noble roots, and I picked a large proportion of the vintage at this moment. It's a late picking, but like 2005, but now is not finished to fermenting. But when I taste the juice, I have the very nice flavor of apricot, etc. But I suppose it's possible to make the good, very good wine. It's difficult to have an appreciation for the vintage today because it's very early to
say.
Yes, but I suppose you have the great potential to make the good, je dirais, assemblage to have the complexity of Château d'Yquem.